I've been in the firm since I was an associate. I didn't do the internship like some other people might have done, but back then we didn't even have internships at the firm. I worked really hard. I think I had 6 interviews with David Marion to get my job. So I really wanted to work here, but worked my way up through, became manager, partner. I've been partner for about, if I've been here 14 years, I've probably been partner about 16 or 17 years. Time starts to fly when you get old. You lose track of the time. And when I came to the firm, we had, I think, 2 housing authorities, and I think currently we do something like 60 housing authorities now. So I've worked really hard and built our housing authorities practice. The firm, when I came, had a bunch of nonprofits. That's where I got started. I've always been in audit. I've never done the tax side. I tried 1 tax season in tax, and that was enough for me. I stuck out in audit. I liked it way better on the audit side. I think that's anything else, Hannah, you want me to add in there?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Let's turn it over to Kendra.
I've already met everybody. You've seen my bio. Audit partner, specialize in nonprofits, audits, reviews, compilations. Started here right after graduation 8 years ago, and been a partner for 3 years. And Hannah
yes.
nailed my dislike. She didn't even ask me.
I didn't even ask anybody.
Really?
No. I think somebody might have asked Pete.
Yeah, Crystal did.
Okay, Pete, we'll let you go next.
Oh, well, you've already gone through my work bio. So the other things to know about me is I live on a small horse ranch. We have horses and we go traveling with our horses. And I also, I drive that race car behind me. So I started Spec Miata racing about 2 years ago, and have a lot of fun going out on the California tracks to go race the car.
And yes, we have a really good insurance policy on Pete.
It's safer than flying.
And then Doug, you guys just met Doug, but I'll let Doug give a chance to share anything else he wants to share about himself.
Right, since this is getting re-recorded, right? This is the different recording. So,
Yes.
All right, so yeah, I'm Doug Engelhart. I worked at Smith Marion since 2012, going on 8 years. This will be my 3rd year as partner. Some interesting things we're going to talk about earlier is that actually after 2 years in my career, I moved out and worked with Chad. And I worked with Chad for about almost 5 years. And we really built up he built up, I hope, the Tennessee office and those housing authorities to where it's really popping. It's a good time. I do like romantic movies.
Miguel was wrong.
Yes, Miguel.
That's what he always wants to watch when we're traveling together. He always wants to watch a romantic movie.
That's right. I'm not going to bed unless I'm in Chad's hotel room and we finish a nice romantic movie together, or if I can't sleep.
Doug has seen Titanic more than once.
That's right. So, yeah, and then actually, fun fact, Pete and Chad were the people I interviewed with first, and then I got to sit down at Black Angus and interview with Mr. David Marion himself. So, here we go.
Okay, thank you guys. So who wants to kick us off with a question?
I can start off. Kendra, I see you became principal approximately 6 years after you started with Smith Marion. What were the major keys, events, or factors that helped you climb to that position?
Ooh, good question. I think some of it, honestly had to do with attrition at the firm, but also just my work ethic. The fact that I was able to obtain my CPA license within the first year of being at the firm. As a licensed individual, you can take on work and be trusted, given more work to do. So that helped out. It also helped that David Marion was a very good mentor. And so he pushed me to do a lot of CPE in the sort of management arena to make sure I was well-rounded and ready for that position. So the keys would be a good mentor, a good situation, and then obtaining your license.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Dad, if I may ask a question.
Sure.
So you said that you had a massive expanding of housing authorities audits. One, I don't know if any of us are familiar. Is there any particular intricities to housing authority audits that make it different from any other, particular audits? Is there a particular thing? And secondly, how was the company able to achieve that feat?
So I probably made it sound a lot better than it really was. I always tell the story inside the firm, and Doug will, you'll see him smile every once in a while in this story, because I really didn't start out in the firm. When I became partner, my focus was to get more daycare center audits. We had a lot of nonprofit daycare center audits, and that seemed like an easy route for me. So I was like, hey, we have like 8 daycare centers. Let's, as a new partner, you're generally trying to expand a certain area that the firm hasn't already expanded into to make yourself valuable and, just make everyone think you're really great. We got one new nonprofit daycare center in my 4 or 5 years of attempting it. Somehow along the way, we fell into 2 or 3 more housing authorities, and they just started falling one after the other. And we started doing those housing authorities, and we did a good job. And we got a reputation really fast around the Southern California area. And so a couple other housing authorities from that area, like Calexico. And so when I say Southern California, pretty big area I'm talking about, started calling us and asking us to bid on jobs, and we started just picking them up. So I wouldn't say that I did anything special to achieve that, other than once we got about 7 or 8, then that's when Doug came out of Tennessee and started working with me, and we started really focusing on picking up housing authorities and started going to trade shows and going and training. Also, we do training on housing authorities. To answer your other question, the first part of the question you asked was, is there anything special about housing authorities? As far as the audit side, not a lot. Like, you're not going to have to do some special audit procedures you've never heard of if you went on an audit with us on a housing authority. But there's a lot of intricacies in the reporting, and that's what makes it really difficult for a lot of agencies who won't get involved. A lot of housing authority audit firms are dropping out because it's just really complicated. Just like we don't do pension audits. I don't know if there's any specific special tests you have to do on pensions. It's just you have to know the reporting requirements, the different types of pensions, and so we don't touch pensions with a 10-foot pole. So to answer your question, there's not, if you're asking as an associate coming in and started working with us, and you went and did an audit of the housing authority, and you turn around and went and did an audit of a not-for-profit, and you did cash, it'd be very similar. There's special tests we do for housing authorities, a little different than nonprofits, but generally it's not anything astronomically different.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd like to ask Pete a question.
Go ahead.
I would ask Pete, what best prepared you for being principal at Smith Marion and Company?
Uh-oh. I just lose my computer. I just lost my screen. Never mind. I'm back.
We can hear you.
What prepared me to be a principal? Okay, so I had a wide variety of experience before I joined the firm. I managed a $6 million a year plastering company in the late 80s before I started my accounting and tax career, actually, and then had my own little company in San Bernardino for about 15 years. And during that time, Hannah had that slide up about being a tech guru. So I actually wired Smith Marion for their very first network long before I joined the firm, and got them hooked up with a server and able to share files and work together out in the field with computers linked together. And then, of course, as they grew, as we grew, the IT requirements became much more difficult, and so we hired IT firms to manage actual servers and do those things. But and then I also was in the National Guard. I joined the National Guard at 16 and was a artillery officer for 10 years. And so got a lot of leadership training through the military and so on and so forth. And so all of those things combined, I think prepared me very well to be, to manage a company and to assist with company management, leadership, and so on and so forth.
Okay. You're
Does that
starting
answer your
to,
question, Amy?
you started to fade out near the end of your answer.
Yeah, I do think you're having
Okay,
technical
so
difficulties now.
yeah,
Do-
it's
do-
just
do
my
we have to
internet
fix the
connection is
network?
unstable.
The tech guy has the worst internet.
Probably.
He's actually here today, though.
Yeah, I'm in the office. Let me see.
He's just unlucky.
You're good now, Pete. I think you just messed that last sentence is all you didn't.
Yeah.
We got
Oh,
it.
okay. So just the combination of military leadership training and just business management that I brought into the firm, I think prepared me very well for taking on a leadership role here and a management role here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Does anybody else have a question?
I got one for Douglas. You touched up on ways to be better productive, such as eating healthy, getting good night rest and exercise. I was just wondering because, and this goes to all the partners too, for those long hours in the office, what really makes you guys more comfortable, like just sitting in a chair and just, make it more comfortable as the day goes on, of just working? Do you guys pop off your shoes? Do you guys just get up and take a walk, or?
Okay, so I like to work out after work or before work. So, I have the Apple Watch. I'm not wearing it right now, but I have the Apple Watch. And that stupid thing tells me stand up every 10 minutes or something like that. So I don't know if any of you guys have one of those things, but they'll tell me. And sometimes I'll ignore it, but after the second time it tells me, I'm like, okay, I need to go get some water, right? So, and if you're not super busy, you don't need to get something done right then. Go talk to some, go talk to some people, or go see how people are doing. But my watch is one of my big things. It tells me when I need to get up. It tells me that I haven't been breathing. So I'm like, oh shoot, how am I not breathing? But yeah, so just take some deep breaths and just kind of calm and relax and get yourself out of, because if you just sit there and stare, I'll sit there and stare at the screen for literally just 4 hours straight doing my stuff and won't even realize that I've done that. And by the end of the day, my eyes are trashed, and and if I'm not getting up and walking, my legs are sore, my back is sore. So it's not it's not the labor of backbreaking, but it will if you're not taking care of and being thoughtful about taking your eyes off the screen, about getting up, getting water, taking care of yourself, those kind of things. It's really, it'll wear you down on your body to where at the end of the day, you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to go do it, you just want to go lay down. And so it's I like to say that it's a marathon. You got people that are, sprinters, and they're just going to run really fast and they're going to burn out real quick. So you got to be careful. You got to learn how to manage yourself to say, okay, I know this is a marathon. I want to get done. I want to be a fast marathoner, right? How do I accomplish that? So taking care of yourself, eating well, all that kind of stuff. And then I've been through those downfalls where I've been traveling for months on end, and all we're eating is pizza and drinking beer and not sleeping well. And it takes a toll on you by the time, but you'll start realizing hey, I'm not as active. I don't really want to get after it like that, and those kind of things. And so And then when you do change and you do add a salad or you do go do some jogging or whatever, you notice a difference. You're like, oh, like, okay, I have to, be able to manage myself just like I manage my work, right? So just like while you're working, frequently get up, drink water, try to have some brief, conversation or take your mind off of work to kind of just get back. That way you can reset your level and then you can jump back in with that enthusiasm again. Hopefully that was good. Anyone else want to chime in on some stuff that they do to kind of keep themselves, initiated?
Yeah, we do offer standing desks for anyone who wants them. So you're able to stand up and sit down even while you work and without moving away from your desk.
Wow.
We have a lot of people that listen to music while they work. That kind of helps you focus. It kind of tunes out the background noise and things that are going on around you. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to get up and walk away for a minute and go get a snack or do something on those lines. Unlike Doug, I wouldn't be able to work out in the afternoon very well, but I like to work out at 5 o'clock, 5:15 in the morning, and then take a shower and then come into work and kind of get focused. So I'm a morning person, and
I hear that.
it's like light switch. Okay, alarm clock goes off and I'm on. So evening is not such a good time for me. It's like I need to go to bed in the evening. But yeah, I mean, it definitely you have to take care of yourself and you have to keep your mind sharp during the day in order to be able to focus on the things that really require a lot of focus. And the difficulty is always when you have repetitive work that you have to do, and that gets less and less as you progress in your career. But there's still, not all accounting is exciting, certainly, and so sometimes you just do have to go through the motions of doing the stuff, and then you have to work about how not to let your mind wander.
Definitely.
I'd say they're going to make fun of me about being the anomaly because I really love what I do. So never bothers me how many hours I put in, and they always make fun of me on my billable hours. I usually beat most people with billable hours. I beat a lot of staff members with billable hours, but also some of that's traveling. I travel a lot, so we charge travel hours. When you're traveling, that's considered billable hours. Mm-hmm. So I probably spend 400 or 500 hours a year in the air traveling around doing these housing authorities. But like they say, Doug and Pete both said, I'm a morning person like Pete, so I get up and I'll do my exercise in the morning. But the other cool thing I always tell everyone that keeps me re-energized is I'm a big video game guy. So I have a gaming laptop. So when I'm traveling, I finish work, turn off my work screen, get my video games up and play video games to kind of get my mind off of work for a while.
For sure.
Yeah, and then Chad can actually sleep for like 3 hours and he'll get a full night's sleep. He's got, I forget what the gene is, but there's a particular person with this gene that if you sleep, like they can sleep for 3 hours and it doesn't matter. They feel well rested no matter what. So he can do that. I know like after 2 weeks of doing that, he'll take us a Friday and like sleep in till like 11 or 12 and then he's reset. So he's an anomaly when it comes to that kind of stuff. A lot of people, they can't stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning and then get up at 6 and go to work and be there. Chad, he definitely has. He said
it much nice. He said it much nicer there. He used to call me a vampire.
Yeah.
I don't have any special routine. I'm one of those individuals. I enjoy working, and so my thing is always to try and rein in the working. I like to get up early, and so I like to put in my hours before, if it's the weekend, before the family's even awake. So my task is always just to make sure I'm making that time where I'm not working. And of course, when you're burnt, you just know it. You just know you're burnt. And so that's when you know you got to take a good 24 hours and force yourself to just kind of reset, enjoy your family, hang out. So
Okay, I have a question for Chad. I see you have over 1,000 flight hours. What is the most enjoyable part of your work?
Well, I'm a military brat, like I said before. If no one knows that term, that means my dad was in the military all my life. He just retired about 10 years ago. And so I've always traveled everywhere. And if you can imagine being, 15 and then moving and then being 18 and moving again, I didn't like it. But my parents point out that I don't stay still very long either. Now that you mentioned I have 1,000 hours flying. I really like traveling around, going to the different housing authorities and going everywhere different and meeting different clients. But it was no different when I was in the nonprofit and just doing different clients at the local area. We have a lot of clients in the Inland Empire. And I just really enjoy going to different clients and not just, I think for me, the worst accounting job I could have is where I just was at a housing authority and I just saw the same 10 people and I dealt with the same 10 problems they have over and over again. For me, it's a little stressful, but it's fun to go to each different housing authorities, to constantly picking up new housing authorities or new clients and finding a whole new bag of tricks. I think just yesterday, Doug was calling me about, okay, there's this weird thing we've never seen before. What do we do with this? And we're both going, we don't know. This is our best guess of what we should do because there's no accounting guidance on it whatsoever. We talked to 2 other experts we know in the area. And so that's the stuff I really like. I like that it's never the same thing every day, even though we are doing the routine accounting. It's audit after audit, but every one of them is different. And the same clients too. Sometimes you'll see they'll change out the staff members. So even though I might be going to the same client for 10 years, I might have year 8, a whole new set of staff members over there, and it's a whole new ballgame of people to deal with.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that traveling, when we go on travel jobs, there's a lot of fun to be had too. Chad and I have been to Lakers game in Utah. We audit the housing authority of Salt Lake City, and I think Chad goes skiing there, pretty regularly because it's always in like February that we're there. So there's lots of things to do in these different places. You go, have different food. You have restaurants that you find that are local favorite hangouts, and once a year you get to go visit those places. And there's a lot of positives to the travel, even though it sucks to be on airplanes and in airports for long periods of time.
Yeah, Doug and I spent 21 days, Doug, in Africa.
Yep, 3 weeks.
Yep. We had a nonprofit that was overseas, and we had to travel for them, and we did all of Africa. They had like 3 or 4 or 5 sites we had to go to. I don't know, you can tell the story, Doug. We were there for a long time.
Yeah, as soon as I got there, I was like, why did I go? Why did I go to come here? It was interesting. It was a cool experience. We actually, I think, me and you, I think it's only me and you, we've been to Papua, New Guinea. It takes about 3 to 4 days just to get there. And of that, 2 of the days is actually in an airplane. That's how many hours you spend on the airplane. You spend like 36 hours in an airplane on top of just your layovers and all that kind of stuff. That when I got there, it was amazing to be there and see the kind of things that we saw. Our client was what they did is they flew into remote areas that didn't have road access, and they fly in religious people, doctors, different kind of stuff into these remote areas. So we were in Papua, which is just right above Australia. And I actually got to go snorkeling in some of the most beautiful waters that I've ever been. And basically, I had to work while I went there, but it was a free trip for me. I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars out of my pocket to go there. I was expected to get my stuff done, but then after that was done, you get to hang out with your team and with the people that you're working with. And so they took me out, and I did snorkeling, and they had all the coral and all the fishes, and it looked just like Finding Nemo. It was amazing. So yeah, that one I really like that one. Africa, scary to see that kind of, that world. It's just, you really come back, especially staying there for 3 weeks. But yeah, we went to, we're in East Congo, then we went to West Congo, and then we had to go went from East Congo, we had to fly into Uganda because you can't fly directly into West Congo because they were in a conflict. And then you flew into East Congo, and we were there, and then we went to Kenya, and we actually did like a mini safari kind of thing where you just get into this van and they drive you out into the plains, and you get to see some of the different areas and the full-blown excursion, but you got to go see that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool. But I'll tell you, I was ready to come home and, have a cheeseburger and just stuff that you take for granted. So without working and being in this profession and working for this firm in particular, I would have never had those opportunities. And I don't necessarily want to, buy a flight to go to Africa and be in those kind of scary areas. But it is really cool, and it's a really good experience that now I'm able to share forever.
Okay.
And you're still alive.
And I'm still alive.
Yes, Joshua, you had a question?
You guys went to Africa. Was the accounting you were doing under IFRS standards over there, or because it was a U.S. company, it was using GAAP?
U.S. company, we didn't have to deal with IFRS. And then I think we haven't done that client for a while, so they may have moved to IFRS by now. But back when we were doing it, this was about 5 years ago. I think me and Doug went to Africa. We lost that client about 3 or 4 years ago. So they may be IFRS now. Do you remember, Doug, if they were moving to it? Or Kendra worked on the home reporting on it.
They consolidate all back to their U.S. corporation, so they don't ask for any individual corporate financial statements in those countries, because all that money gets collected in the United States, and then they send that money from the United States out to these sites, and then the sites have to manage that money, and the sites do charge for some of for the flights and stuff. So we go out there and we do like controls testing, so we make sure they have receipts, make sure they have the cash they say, make sure they have the planes they say they have, the inventory that they say they have. We go check that stuff. So we're going out and we're checking these sites and making sure they have sound policies and controls in place. And then, they take those people's financials that they're putting into their software and then send it back to the home in the United States, where they just consolidate all those sites together to say, hey, this is our, offsite, this is our overseas stuff. So there's no reliance for international people that need those financial statements. So there's really no reason to use IFRS.
Okay, that's good to know. I did have one other question. I'm so sorry. I'm very intrigued. This is for anyone in particular. So our eventual goal is to be hired to a firm. That is our aim. We're all students. We're all progressing and take our CPA exam. I don't know if the principals specifically handle any hiring of associates or interns, but if there is one quality that you would see in an intern or associate that you think would bring success, what would it be?
Oh, I narrowed it down to one.
That's why it's hard.
Kind of a package, but I would say one of the things that I would say that we look for and would make your life also. It's one of the things isn't we're just looking for the right candidate. We're also looking for the candidate that wants to do what we do too. So you could be, exactly what we want, but if you want to be a stock trader or you want to work for a big corporation, it's not going to working for us. You're never going to get there. We're not going to get hired away by Microsoft or anything like that. But I would say the one thing I think we really look for, and anyone else can answer on that one, is organization. If you're not organized, audit will be a nightmare for you. I always say it's like putting a puzzle together. You just keep trying all these different pieces until you get it down to that last little piece and you put it in and boom, I'm done. But if you don't like that and you're not organized and you can't set all the pieces off to the side and do the outside of the puzzle first and then work your way into the inside, you're probably not going to like audit.
Yeah, I think usually we're looking for a combination of somebody who is showing initiative. So when I graduated, I put my resume out there. I got a few no thank yous. Great to meet you, but we're not interested. And so for the 6 months after I graduated, I continued with VITA. I went ahead and was a site supervisor, even though I wasn't getting any school credit, I wasn't getting paid for it. I even stored their equipment in my house. My husband thought I was crazy. But I wanted to make sure I was still showing an interest in the industry and in my career. And I also kept studying for the CPA exam. And when I interviewed with Chad and Pete, I had the great fortune of having received the scores from my second test the morning of that interview. And so I was able to tell them, I've already completed 2 parts of the exam. And so I think that, you'd have to ask them, but I think that helped. Definitely, it showed I had the initiative, that I was looking to pursue this career, even when I didn't have a job offer yet. So.
Yeah, that was a big plus on Kendra when she comes in. Anyone who comes in with parts of the exam pass is always a big, ooh, okay, they're not waiting around for us to pay for them to take the exam. I mean, I understand other people like Doug. We hired him before he even finished. He couldn't even take the exam when we hired Doug.
He was still in school.
Yeah, he was still in school when we hired him. He finished his master's degree and did an internship with us.
Yeah.
But for us, yeah, that's a big one, I think, is if you have the exam parts taken, that's great. If you haven't passed, that's super impressive. So those are big things.
Well, and then in the case of Doug, I think, weren't you like the first or second iteration of the 3-2 program at Cal State? I mean, you were really early in that
It was the first
combination MSA program.
It was the first. But I mean, I had already went to a different college. I've gotten some units. So I actually, I got my degree in accounting and my master's degree in 2.5, 3 years. So I overloaded on classes. I did a lot of school. So, and then at the very tail end there, I still had a lot of classes, but I was right. Smith Marion had hired me, and I still had like six months of school I still had to do. So I was working full time and doing my classes. And then straight from there, I took my CPA exam right at, I think I took a month off, and then I started passing the CPA exam right after that. So it was about a little over a year into my career with Smith Marion. I had my master's and I passed all parts of the CPA exam. So just need a little experience for someone to sign off for me to get my license. But I took care of all that stuff all at once. And then that really, I mean, I think they saw that and said, okay, yeah, there's the drive. There's the guy that wants to create value.
But, so those are kind of the things that show that you are motivated and that you are bringing a work ethic into the firm to begin with. But, I think when it comes right down to it, the final thing that is going to make the difference is cultural and team fit. If you're not going to get along with the team that you work with, or if you don't fit into our firm culture, it doesn't matter how motivated you are. You're going to create a problem in the firm, and so that becomes kind of the final piece. That's why we have generally multiple interviews. You'll interview with the principal and potentially Hannah and maybe one other person initially, and once you get there, then you'll probably interview with the entire team that you're going to work with to make sure that everybody is happy, that they would want you aboard, and that they're going to be able to work with you. Because we've had that issue over and over again, where you bring somebody in and they have all the credentials in terms of being able to get the work done, but they just create a horror when it comes to working with other people.
Yeah, especially us on the travel side. I mean, we're like a little family. We travel all the time together. We spend a lot of hours together. That's why me and Doug have so many jokes. But you also see the partners. We all kind of joke with each other too. So if we're not a stuffy firm, we're not going to fit in. If you're that stuffy kind of person that doesn't fit with us, we're serious when we're doing our work, but we like to have a good time when we're able to.
Let's see, Ryan or Roberto, do you guys have any questions? I want to make sure that you guys get a chance to ask your questions too.
Yeah, so I guess this is a question for everyone, but like, how would you describe your experience with like mentorship? It could be either like mentoring someone within the firm or your experience like being mentored.
Doug, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick off. So obviously, my mentor is sitting right here with us. His name's Chad Porter. You know, it's a personality fit in part with you and your mentor. I mean, that helps. That helps for you guys to spend time together. But I mean, for your success, you need to find someone in the firm or outside the firm that's going to teach you and is going to show you this stuff. Unless you have a father or a grandfather or someone that's in that industry that can mentor you and walk you through all this kind of stuff, you have to find that person because they have the knowledge, they have the expertise, they're in it, they've been doing it, they've proven themselves successful. And you know, you want to pick a good mentor, someone that you can look up to, and someone that you want to eventually become. You want to take on their, ask them how did they do it, what are they doing, and you know, you got to take their feedback, you got to take their good feedback, you got to take their bad feedback, and really think about it. And what are they trying to tell you? You can't get butthurt because these people, they're doing it. You know, when you find a mentor, they're doing it. They should be successful. That's why that's why you choose them as your mentor, right? So, and you need to pull as much knowledge as you can from them. You got to realize that, hey, you know, they're kind of doing it for free, so you have to be respectful of them, respectful of their time, and show them that respect, and you'll get a lot from them. So I think it's very necessary. You're going to have a tough time succeeding in a firm doing it on your own without having that mentor to kind of give you that guidance. And you take that guidance and they give it to you. You know, you might ask them a question. You might gotta wait a day. You might gotta wait a week. Yeah, or you know what I mean. But they're there for you, and they've been through it, so they're going to give you the best advice that they have.
One thing that I would say, and I know I'm not on the panel, but make sure you take their advice. I see a lot of people asking partners for advice, and I see a lot of people not taking the advice that the partners give them. So be sure that when you are in a firm, if you're getting advice from somebody, that you're not asking over and over again, but then going off and doing your own thing, because they're not going to want to mentor you.
Yeah, I've gotten both sides of it. You know, my mentor was David Marion too. He was a great, like Kendra said, he was a great mentor. He showed me the ropes just like Doug was talking about. And I've worked with Doug and mentoring him on his way up through. And it's one of those ones, I've mentored more people than Doug, and they're not partner. So it's nothing magical that I did that made Doug a partner. It's just that he, like he said, he took my advice and he followed it. A lot of people ask you things just because they want to look good. Like they just, oh, I should go talk to the partner and make sure I look good. And they'll just ask you questions and they have no interest in following what you tell them. You know, they want to, how do I make partner? A lot of work and, you know, a lot of effort. Okay. Then they leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. Well, that's really not taking my advice. So I would say that's what I've learned from being on both sides of that, being mentored and then trying to mentor. And also I would say you want more than one mentor. David Marion wasn't my only mentor in accounting. Actually, Pete outside of the firm helped mentor me. If you can't tell about the gray hair, I'm much younger than Pete. I knew Pete for a long time and he helped mentor me. And I had other people in the industry that helped me with my training on how to do training because Pete is not a big training guy and neither was David Marion. So to do like training to like seminars, I had to go to somebody else to get that mentoring.
We have 4 minutes left, so I want to give Ryan a chance to ask a question if you had any questions to ask.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for coming out and speaking to us today, taking the time out of your busy schedules. My question was more about sort of the evolving analytics role in accounting. I've noticed that a lot of firms were kind of taking that up. I was wondering if you guys could speak to that and the role it has in your firm.
You know, you want to
I'm going to start off. I mean, the auditors can probably talk more about the actual use of analytics. But you know, we look at technology pretty regularly and early, usually, to evaluate it, to see how it will fit in with what we do. So you know, we started using analytic programs for our auditing probably now 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and it's evolved. I mean, because new technology comes out, we evaluated CCH's software that goes along with the other CCH apps that we use, and initially rejected it because it was more difficult to use, and then, you know, now have you know, gone ahead and we use it's called Teammate Analytics, and it's kind of evolving and maturing to a point where it really is a helpful tool in being able to quickly select samples and identify the areas where you know, the analytics part really focuses the work on things that are actually significant to the audit. And so,
yeah, and the tools we have are fantastic. You know, we've had people in the firm who were really good at Excel. They knew all the equations, they could write them. The great thing about the software is that it's push of the button. And so once you become familiar with these softwares and how they work, and you understand the applications to the work that you're doing, I don't know, I get completely geeked out on it. So I can go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, you know, the correlation of all these numbers and putting them together and what do they mean. So, but the technology makes it very, very easy for us to do that, and it makes it so much faster. So that's the exciting part.
Thanks for your insight on that.
I'll just add to it a little bit. I think from our side, we don't utilize it as much as, let's say, one of those big firms. You know, one of those auditing Apple, auditing, you know, these big public corporations, right? They're relying on that heavily because you were talking about billions of transactions, right? There's no way they're going to be able to test all those transactions. So they have the resources to have dedicated data analytics people to say, okay, your only job is to get this data from the client into this format so that we can analyze it, right? They have the funds, they have, you know, they're charging millions of dollars for their audits, right? So they have the budget for that kind of stuff. And they, you know, they have the plugins, and they probably have their own software that works 100% of the time, right? As we're trying to get plugins from add-on vendors that, you know, aren't playing nice with their software. And so sometimes it works, sometimes we can't get into it to use it. But, you know, sometimes we do. Some of our bigger housing authorities, some of our bigger clients do have a lot of transactions that we cut down on the amount of testing that we had to do if we're able to filter out, you know, all of that noise with the data analytical tools. But we don't, our firm personally, we don't utilize it as much because it's still a newer kind of thing to where, you know, this stuff has to play nice with this stuff, and you have to get the data into this. But as the years go and people become more standardized as far as their accounting systems, and, you know, their system talks to our system to where we can just press a button and get that information pulled into our stuff and then run our analytics, it'll be a lot more helpful because right now, the systems don't really talk to each other very well. But the bigger firms, they can pay people that do that between here and here, right? So it's coming, and it's gonna reduce the amount of the work as far as testing goes. Testing individual transactions, so a lot of that mundane, very lower level stuff is going to start decreasing and being absorbed up as these analytical softwares get better. And it's going to be more of a, you have to be an expert. You have to understand what interpreting this, right? That's where you're going to start focusing your time. And so it's going to be hard for newer people to come into the auditing industry. And to be those experts and understand what this data means, right? Unless you had experience, you know. So that's my take on data analytics.
Thank you so much, everyone. We all really appreciate your guys' participation and sharing your knowledge to the students.